Well, hello there, and welcome once again to another informative and exciting show of the VITA Show. I have today a segment that I like to call Living Legends, and I think that I have the ultimate living legend here in the studio today with me. I have today Mr. James C. Floyd, or who we affectionately call the Jefferson Street Poet. Hi, James. How you doing?
Hi, Navita. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, I am so pleased and honored that you could come to be with us today. Why don't you tell our viewing audience a little bit about the Jefferson Street Poet?
Okay. I was born here in Nashville, 1946.
Wow.
I went to public schools, and I attended Washington Junior High School, Pearl High School, Old Pearl Elementary School.
Wow, the Old Pearl.
The Old Pearl Elementary
Wow.
School. I mention those schools because they're historical. They're
Yes, a lot of history.
You know, the quality of the education that we got in those schools, which I didn't appreciate it at the time, because I discovered alcohol and drugs about age 14, 15, you know. And by the time I turned 17, I was in one grade here, another grade there, and you know.
Your path kind of got a little rocky.
My path got rocky, and so I talked my father into signing for me to join the Army.
Wow.
You didn't need a high school diploma then, you know.
Okay.
And sometimes you don't allow yourself to see things that are right there, you know. It wasn't until 20-some years later that I saw my father's face when I told him I'd been put out of school and told not to come back. And he said, well, son, I've been working all my life for you to go to college. I was hoping you'd be the first one, you know.
Now, were you the only child?
No,
Okay.
I was the oldest.
Oldest?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So you have some other siblings, some
I have one
brothers?
brother, Fred, who is an RN, and I have sister, Georgia, who lives in Memphis and has 4 boys.
All right, all right. Now you mentioned that you asked your who was your father and mother? Would you tell us a little?
My father was James C. Floyd Sr.
Okay.
Worked at St. Thomas Hospital for 40 years as what was then called an orderly on the night shift.
Wow.
All that time.
Wow.
My mom was Olivia Floyd. She worked at Meharry for 30 years. She started out.
See, that's history right there. What you just.
Yeah.
Wow. Him being at St. Thomas and her at Meharry. That is awesome.
Well, I share something that I was in screenwriting school, and I made friends with a guy who was a retired engineer who had gone back to school, and we worked on some projects together in school and after we got out of school. And his wife had been my father's supervisor for 30 of those years.
Wow.
And I'll tell you something that she
talk about the circle going.
Oh man, there are too many coincidences to be coincidental. She told me, she said, your father worked under my supervision. She said he trained me when I got out of school. He trained me how to use a catheter guide and different things that she needed practical training with. She said, and then later I became his supervisor because he couldn't be a nurse there.
Okay.
And
because of the time
because
period,
of the times,
wow, because 1946 we were dealing with civil rights. We hadn't even started.
Right. Well, he worked there long before 46. He was working there years before I was born.
Okay.
But she told me something and here's how I define greatness. Okay. It's not about getting your name in lights and making a lot of money. She said your father worked there on the night shift, and most of the years he worked there, he couldn't walk in the front door, and he couldn't eat in the cafeteria. She said, but when he went into a patient's room to prepare them for the next morning's procedure, when he left that room, that person felt better
for having met
conversed and been with him. I think that is greatness, you know, and that is what I ascribe to be, you know.
James, that is awesome. I mean, that's saying, like I say, a lot when we actually place the time period.
Right.
that your father grew up in and some of the challenges for an African American man or black man back then that he seemed to be aware of, but also he made the best.
He made the best, but I think that was across the board. In the community I lived in, and it's been my experience that times were hard and unfair. You know.
Now, where were you? South Nashville, East,
North Nashville.
North
I
Nashville?
grew up on Hermosa Street in the Fisk area.
Okay.
And during that time, we kids in the neighborhood weren't wanted on Fisk campus either. You know, we're being real here. You know, we had a saying they didn't want you on campus unless you were light, bright, damn near white. If you were black,
really?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, that's true.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Well, you know, we're being truthful.
Yeah,
So
we
might
are.
as well tell the whole truth, right?
That's right. We doing. We
Okay.
telling history.
Yeah, right. And you know, there's no shame in our game because this is how far we have come.
Yeah.
You know, but there's a lot of things that I will hear that part of the story is told. You know.
Yes.
Right. Now, during the Civil Rights Movement, there was the students from Fisk and Tennessee State that led the movement.
Well, that's what I did here in a documentary. I think that Channel 8 did one time in Black History Month, and I was really surprised. And they talked about the lunch counter thing, and so you grew up in all of that.
Right. I participated in the marches. I was in the rehearsals for the nonviolent actions to be taken at First Baptist Church, Capitol Hill. I was there through it all. I really didn't have...
Who was the minister then?
Kelly Miller Smith. And, you know, we're talking about history. I was talking to a guy who was writing a book about the Civil Rights Movement, and I asked him if he knew why they met at First Baptist Church, Capitol Hill. And he said, no, he didn't know. I just thought they just met there. But that was a strategic move.
Really?
Right. During that time, bombings were not a federal offense. The state took care of that, you know. So that's why you had a lot of lynchings and bombings and things that went unresolved because the state took care of it. But First Baptist Church, Capitol Hill, was in close proximity to the Federal Reserve Bank. So had anybody bombed that church and one brick touched the bank, it would have been a federal offense. So they felt pretty safe there. They felt that the church would not be bombed. You know.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, I didn't know that,
Most people
Floyd.
don't.
I mean, thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
This is something that we have captured that I think a lot of people, it's going to raise a lot of eyebrows because I had no clue.
Right. Well,
I've seen that church. I passed by it a lot of times, and then heard about it in, I think, that documentary that they did, but didn't know why that particular church.
Well, there was everything that was done during the Civil Rights Movement by the leaders of the movement was planned. It was strategic. There wasn't any
I guess it had to be.
Yeah.
You know, when you think about that traumatic era that African Americans were dealing with, and like you said, you were talking to the gentleman about a book. I want to let our viewing audience know that in fact you have done a book as well called Some Gentle Moving Thing, and I just want to hear some more about you. On the back said that oh my goodness, we feel privileged to have shared your profound and affecting thoughts in Some Gentle Moving Thing. There is concern and passion here. Gentleness is persuasive even through the anguish. You have a warming gift as a poet. Now this was a commentary from Ozzie and Ruby Davis. I mean, that's awesome.
May I tell you a little story?
Yeah, please do, please.
Ozzie and Ruby Davis were at Fisk, and in my youth, I pitched all the time. I was trying to get my work out there. I don't care who it was. I'd ask you to read it. you know.
Wow.
And so they were signing autographs, and I was in line, and I had the book.
An opportunity.
Something they had written. I gave them my book, you know, and I said, "Look, I've written this book. I'd like for you to read it." And,
wow.
excuse me, and tell me what you think, and maybe give me some help, you know, whatever, you know. And they said, "Okay," and she said, "What do you do? What are you write permanent, you know?"